All right, get ready to dive deep because this time we're tackling real estate investing. Specifically, we're taking you through the pages of Robert Kiyosaki's The Real Book of Real Estate. Your guide, basically, to building that real estate empire you've been thinking about.
And the best part is, we're not talking theory here. We're talking real deal advice from investors, people who've actually walked the walk and have, the portfolio to prove it.
Exactly. It's like having a boardroom full of mentors at your fingertips. Now, one of the things that really clicked with me was Tom Wheelwright's approach. He's a CPA, but he's also a real estate powerhouse. And his big thing, treat real estate investing like a business.
Makes sense, right? But you wouldn't believe how many people just sort of wade in thinking it's, I don't know, instant riches or something. It's not a lottery ticket, it takes strategy, just like any business worth its salt.
100%. And Wheelwright breaks it down into these 5 steps, super clear. First off, he talks about your dream line, which I love. It's so much more exciting than just setting goals, right?
Oh, yeah. It's powerful, actually, because it's about tapping into that vision, right? What's that life you're building towards? Like,
Right.
are we talking owning that beach house you can escape to? Or is it more about like the freedom to finally travel the world because you've got that passive income rolling in? Whatever it is, getting that picture clear in your head, that's the fuel.
Absolutely. It's that emotional drive that keeps you going when things get tough. But okay, so you got that fire lit, now what? Time to get strategic. This is where, you ditch the whole winging it approach and map things out.
Yeah, you got to have a roadmap. Like, are you into flipping houses for that quick turnaround? Or maybe it's more your style to build up a bunch of rental properties, steady cash flow, that kind of thing. Figuring out your niche, your investment style, how it all fits into your bigger financial goals, that's crucial up front.
It's like you wouldn't just walk onto a chessboard and start moving pieces randomly, hoping for the best. There's got to be a strategy behind every move, right?
Precisely. And speaking of strategy, let's talk team. Wheelwright is big on this. Surround yourself with experts. Even if you're just starting out, having the right people on your side is huge. We're talking attorneys, accountants, mortgage brokers, contractors. They're the pros who can save you a ton of time, money, and headaches down the line.
It's all about leveraging their expertise, right?
Yeah.
Because none of us can be masters of everything. I mean, Wheelwright himself tells this story about how he's earning over $100,000 a month from his real estate ventures. And get this, he's only putting in about an hour of his own time each week. And how's he doing it? A killer team.
That's the power of delegation, right? Finding people who are specialists in their fields. Like a good accountant, they're not just there to crunch numbers. They help you see the angles you might miss, navigate the tax maze, make those smart financial decisions. They're like your financial wingman, guiding you towards max profit.
Makes perfect sense. Now, I know this next one might not sound quite as glamorous as, closing $1 million deal, but it's the backbone of any good real estate business. We got to talk about accounting. Yeah, not exactly the most thrilling part of the game, I'll grant you that. But hey, without solid accounting, you're basically flying blind.
No kidding. I mean, how can you make smart choices, right? How do you spot those little warning signs or even those hidden opportunities if you don't have a handle on the numbers, the real story they're telling?
Exactly. And this reminds me of a story Wheelwright tells about a fourplex he bought. On paper, the numbers look decent, right? But then he digs in with his accounting team, and they discover some creative financing options that ended up, significantly boosting the cash flow from the property.
See, that's what I'm talking about, uncovering those hidden gems. And it all starts with having a system, right from day one. A good chart of accounts, maybe some property management software if you're dealing with rentals. These tools, they streamline everything, plus they give you that, X-ray vision into your finances.
So we're talking tracking your cash flow, appreciation, expenses, all of it. It's like getting granular, right?
All right.
Really understanding the performance of your investments.
Exactly. But it goes beyond just seeing the numbers. You got to analyze them.
Right.
Right. Compare them to what others are doing. Use them to make course corrections along the way. Remember, in this game, knowledge equals power, especially when it comes to your money.
Right on. Okay, so foundation, check. Team assembled, check. Accounting, check. I guess next up, we got to talk taxes. Because one of the major perks of real estate, let's be honest, is the potential to, hang on to more of that hard-earned cash.
Oh, absolutely. And while this book mainly focuses on the U.S. tax code, the ideas still apply no matter where you are in the world. Governments, they often want to encourage real estate investment, so it's all about knowing the lay of the land.
Right. Work smarter, not harder. So the book dives into 5 main strategies you can use to potentially shrink that tax bill, maybe even significantly. The first one stood out to me, having a real tax strategy, not just winging it.
Huge difference. It's like your overall business strategy.
Right.
Your tax strategy should be in sync with your goals, your risk tolerance, the whole picture. It's about being proactive, thinking ahead about those tax implications, structuring things to your advantage.
So no more like frantically searching for receipts when tax season rolls around.
Exactly. Now, another biggie, your entity structure. LLC, corporation, partnership, they all have different implications when it comes to liability, how you're taxed.
Okay, so break it down for us. What are the key differences we should wrap our heads around?
Sure. So an LLC, or limited liability company, that's super popular with real estate investors. Why? Because it basically shields your personal assets from business debts, lawsuits, that kind of thing. Plus, it's flexible when it comes to taxes. Corporations, now they're their own separate entity, legally speaking, but they can get a bit more complex tax-wise. And then there's partnerships, great for teaming up, but you really got to think about liability and how you're splitting those profits.
Gotcha. So picking the right entity structure, it's kind of like picking the right foundation for a house, right? Essential for stability, protection, all of that. Speaking of which, let's talk deductions, because who doesn't love a good tax break? The home office deduction music to my ears.
Oh, it's a good one, especially these days, right?
Yeah.
So many people working from home. Basically, you can deduct part of your rent or your mortgage interest, utilities, even property taxes. But, and this is key, make sure you actually qualify, like have a dedicated workspace, all of that, and keep those records clean.
Right. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. The golden rule of deductions, for sure.
Okay, another deduction that I feel like often flies under the radar, travel and meals. We're talking those site visits, conferences, client lunches, all those little write-offs that add up.
Totally. But again, documentation is your best friend. Keep those receipts organized, track your mileage, and make sure those expenses are directly related to your business. No sneaky personal vacations lumped in there. Music to my ears. Okay, so we've got some savvy tax strategies under our belts. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about real estate formulas, those equations for success. And for this, we're turning to investor Wayne Palmer. He's all about that numbers game.
He is. Palmer's big on understanding the financial formulas behind real estate investing, believes it can give you a serious edge. One of his core formulas is C plus O plus XK equals dollar. Looks a little intimidating at first glance, I know, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Capital plus opportunity plus exchange, all divided by speed, equals wealth.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for us. Starting with capital, what exactly are we talking about here?
Good question. And this is where Palmer gets interesting. He's not just talking about how much cash you've got stashed away. He's talking about all your resources, savings, sure, but also equity, credit lines, even your time and talents. It's about recognizing what you've got to work with and then using it strategically.
I love that. It's a more holistic view of capital, right? Not just about how much money you've got in the bank, but your ability to access and leverage resources. Now, opportunity, how do you go about identifying those golden opportunities?
Well, Palmer gives you this great framework for evaluating opportunities, and it all boils down to asking the right questions. He's got 9 specific questions he uses to analyze potential deals, and they cover everything from, the financials to the team to the long-term vision.
9 questions. All right, give us a sneak peek. What are some of the million-dollar questions we should be asking?
He digs into things like potential return on investment, the risks involved, how much management will be required, and of course, whether it makes financial sense. One of my favorites, though, is this. Does this opportunity actually fit into my life right now? My risk tolerance, my overall goals? It's about making sure the deal is the right fit for you, not just a good deal in a vacuum.
That is such a key point. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement, right? But taking a beat to step back and see if it aligns with your overall strategy, super important.
Absolutely. All right, moving on to exchange. This one's all about making sure there's value being created in every deal.
Yeah.
It's not just about what you can get. It's about what you bring to the table.
I like that. So creating win-win situations, building relationships based on trust, mutual benefit, all of that.
Exactly. And last but definitely not least, we have K, which represents speed, or you could also think of it as time. Palmer is a big believer in the idea that time is of the essence in real estate, so you have to be able to move decisively.
So you're talking about being able to analyze a deal quickly, make decisions swiftly, strike while the iron's hot.
You got it. Palmer often talks about the power of leverage, and he's not just referring to financial leverage. He's also talking about leveraging your time. That means streamlining your processes, having that solid team in place, using technology to your advantage, all of that.
Makes sense. Because in real estate, sometimes that speed, that ability to act decisively can be the difference between landing an amazing deal and, completely missing out. Now, one strategy that Palmer's a huge advocate for is seller financing. What's the deal with that?
Seller financing can be a great tool, actually, for both buyers and sellers. It's basically when the seller becomes the bank, they're the ones providing the financing to the buyer directly. This can be a lifesaver when traditional financing is hard to come by, or if you're looking for more flexibility in the terms.
So it's about being creative, thinking outside that traditional lending box, potentially opening up opportunities that wouldn't be there otherwise.
Exactly. And Palmer has this great analogy he uses. He talks about marbles representing your capital, and he encourages investors to be strategic. Don't put all your marbles on the line for any one deal, no matter how good it looks.
Love that analogy. It's a good reminder to diversify, spread that risk around, and always approach a deal with a healthy dose of caution.
For sure. And this is another area where your team comes in. A good real estate attorney, they can guide you through the ins and outs of seller financing, make sure you're protected legally, and that the terms are favorable for you.
So we've laid the groundwork right, got those formulas down, even learned a thing or two about keeping the tax man happy. But now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. This book is full of tactical advice from, real estate veterans. What were some of those golden nuggets that really resonated with you?
One thing that comes up again and again is the importance of due diligence. Knowledge minimizes risk.
Yeah.
They really hammer that point home.
It's like that story about Scott McPherson, the mortgage broker, right? He was raising red flags about the subprime mortgage crisis way before it hit. He was digging into those loan portfolios, spotting the warning signs that everyone else seemed to miss.
He was. It just goes to show you got to look under the hood,
Yeah.
Go beyond the surface, really scrutinize those deals, because there could be all sorts of traps hidden in the details that can turn a sweet deal sour real quick.
It's like you don't want to buy a used car without taking it for a test drive, right? Make sure everything checks out. And speaking of things that are crucial, location.
Ah, yes. John Finney, the Burger King of Hawaii, he has some great stories about this. He had a nightclub, great concept, cool vibe, but tucked away in some industrial area, practically impossible to find. It tanked.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how fantastic the property is if nobody can find it or if it's in a terrible location.
Exactly. Visibility, accessibility, being close to things people need and want, transportation, the right demographics, it all factors in. Understanding your target market and picking a location that makes sense for them. Crucial.
For sure. But finding the right property is just the first step. Let's talk about adding value, because that's where you can really move the needle, right?
Absolutely. And this investor, Curtis Oakes, he's got this great saying, profit from problems. He sees those diamond-in-the-rough properties, the ones everyone else overlooks, and he finds a way to make them shine.
I love that. So give us an example. How does he actually profit from problems?
Well, like his strategy of adding in-law apartments to houses in San Francisco, he saw a need for more affordable housing in a super competitive market and found a way to capitalize on it. Win-win for him and his tenants.
That's brilliant. Okay, so thinking outside the box, being creative, finding ways to make your investment even more valuable.
Exactly. Renovations, adding square footage, even just sprucing up the landscaping, it all adds up.
And this probably ties into what developer Ross McAllister talks about with building for the market, right?
100%. McAllister, he's all about understanding those market trends, anticipating what people are going to need and want down the line, and building with that long-term vision in mind.
So doing your homework, understanding the local market, the people, the growth potential, all of that.
Precisely. And you know what that brings us back to? The importance of a killer team. Even if you're a seasoned pro, having those experts in your corner makes all the difference.
Reminds me of that story Kim Kiyosaki tells about renovating her own home. Even she had a tough time finding a designer who got her vision, could execute it. It just goes to show you, no matter how much you know, having the right team is essential.
It really is. Attorneys, contractors, accountants, those relationships are golden. Surround yourself with people who get you, get your goals, and can guide you through those tricky parts of the process.
So as we wrapped up this deep dive into the world of real estate investing, what are some of those key takeaways our listeners should walk away with?
Well, first off, remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. It's about building that strong foundation, understanding the financial side of things, having a strategy.
Treating it like a business, not a get-rich-quick scheme, right?
100%. And don't be afraid to keep learning. The real estate world is always changing, so staying on top of trends, new laws, even technology, That's how you stay ahead of the curve.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone. Find a mentor, build your team, connect with other investors. All of that can make the journey a lot smoother.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, real estate investing, it's about more than just buying and selling properties. It's about creating that financial freedom for yourself, building something lasting, achieving those dreams.
What an awesome note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this real estate deep dive. We hope you've learned a ton and feel ready to tackle that next investment.
Cheers to that. Always a pleasure being here.